Good evening, folks. Afternoon, morning, what a time of day you're listening. It's me, the Angry History Chef, and my lovely tech support here, my spooky Goth Wife.
Hello.
And today's talk is, it's Sunday, according to my schedule, which means this is the fantasy talk, or I say fantasy. Today's actually 40k, and really, why I drive my wife insane with 40k knowledge that she swears is pushing out pin numbers and important information.
It is.
It's not. It
is. I shouldn't know about bloody Tanith. I should know, actual things that have happened in the world. Like I said, I'm going to get Jack to teach you Kim Kardashian facts in revenge.
But because it's not important information, Kim Kardashian won't stick in my head.
40k isn't... Well, okay, we might get divorced. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Yeah. You asked for that one. Never say that. 40k is very important, dear. But yeah, basically this is more of a Q&A session between me and my wife and what stuff she really wants to know about 40k. So we're going to put the, shall I say, microphone to her for the first question she really wants to ask.
Did Magnus do something wrong? And if so, what was it? Because it's one of these bloody quotes that you all say at each other and that comes up when we play the Jackbox games with the t-shirt slogan thing. And I need to know the answer to this without reading 252 Black Library novels.
Right, okay. Well, this is easy enough. So, you know Magnus, Primarch of the Thousand Suns?
No.
Right, okay. So, you know... Right.
You've not taught me about that one.
You know Prospero Burns?
I know the book.
Yeah.
It's by the man that you don't like, Graham McNeil.
No. A Thousand Suns is done by McNeil, who may he burn eternally in hell.
Or in the Thousand Suns.
Or in the Thousand Suns. No, Dan Abnett wrote Prospero Burns.
Oh, okay.
So Prospero Burns and Thousand Suns are twin novels for the Heresy.
Right.
And it's about the Space Wolves, the Valka Ferenca of the 6th Legion, attacking Prospero. But instead of arresting Magnus, they go to destroy Magnus and Prospero because War Master Horus intercepts a message. No one knows he's a traitor yet. And he rewrites the thing saying, no, Magnus is to be executed, not arrested.
Right. Now,
the reason this happens is because Magnus has visions because he dabbles with the warp and he's been told not to.
Oh, naughty boy.
No. He's always thirsting for knowledge.
That's not good in 40k.
No, but this isn't 40k, this is the time of the Great Crusade.
Oh, sorry,
this is 30k. No, this is 30k.
Okay.
So this is right back. So the Great Crusade's been going on for 200 years. And everyone does whatever. And during the Great Crusade, as a parody of, during the Bible, you have the Concourse of Nicaea to organise what the Bible is.
Yeah.
Well, in 40k, during the Great Crusade, you have the Treaty of Nicaea, and it's its own concourse, to ban librarians, aka psychers, from the legions. Well, the problem is that Magnus and his entire legion, the Thousand Suns, are basically a legion of psychers.
Right.
So what happens is Magnus suddenly gets shown this vision that Horus is going to betray the Emperor.
Yeah.
So Magnus, trying to be a loyal and dutiful Primarch son of the Emperor, psychically projects, even though he's been told not to, and not to do anything with the psychic powers, psychically projects himself straight onto Terra and straight into the throne room.
Like a Force Ghost.
Like a Force Ghost, you weird Star Wars types. Straight through all the wardings and psychic defences of the Golden Throne and ruptures the defences of Terra, unleashing the Immaterium, aka the Warp, through the Golden Throne. The Golden Throne itself is the Emperor's version of an Eldar webway gate, which means you don't have to go through the warp with Gellerfield. You can walk through it like a walkway. So it's like tunnels cut through the warp without needing warp power.
Kind of like a sea life thing where you go through the underwater bit.
But through the entire warp, and the Eldar built it first.
Okay.
And the Emperor taps into that, and that's what the Golden Throne was meant to be, rather than a life support machine for the Emperor when he gets his back broken during...
It was supposed to be a door.
It's a webway portal, so think like Stargate.
But why is he sat on it then?
Because it's also a life machine, because it requires... He wasn't meant to be sat on it originally.
Right.
It was just meant to be a webway door into the Elder webway used by humans. It was set up to absorb psychers as well to keep it powered.
Right.
So that was still going to happen anyway, but it wasn't meant to have the Emperor sat in it. The reason...
Why does it look like a big chair then?
Because it's not, that's just part of one small part of the machine.
Oh, I don't know, I've only seen the picture.
Yeah, that's the whole point, that's him sat
like
in the
Abraham
Golden Throne.
Lincoln.
Yeah, but the reason he sat there is because he's sat on the Golden Throne, keeping the doorway shut from the warp, because Magnus fucks up all the wardings.
So Magnus did
do
lots
something.
of
Yeah,
things
he did
wrong.
fucking tons wrong.
Okay.
But he was trying to do it for a good reason, and because War Master Horus interrupted the orders and said kill him, don't arrest him,
Right.
and no one realised Horus was going to do traitor, because only Magnus at that point,
Yeah.
in terms of loyalists,
Yeah.
knew he'd gone evil.
Right.
Or turned to chaos.
Yeah.
Along with like the word bearers and everything else. So the quote of Magnus did nothing wrong is because he did awful wrong, like massive scale wrong, and almost destroyed Terra.
So it's like passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's the thing of Magnus did no wrong. It's like, no, he did tons wrong, but he did it all for the right reason.
Oh, okay, his heart was in the right
Yeah,
place.
he was trying to be the good guy, and instead he got bitch slapped from here to eternity because he nearly destroyed Earth.
It's like the well-meaning child
Yeah.
out of a bunch of... It's just like, oh, Magnus.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Which is why on like text-speech, the Emperor with the text-speech device, he's like back in the fold, and he's just like, but father, I didn't mean... It's like, yes, we know that, Magnus, but you are a nerdy... And Magnus is always seen to be the big nerd. Like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff. Because he's the magic user and everything else.
Should be playing Magic the Gathering then if he's...
Well, he does, but he plays all the CCGs. That's the whole point. He's a big old nerd like that.
Yeah, Magnus with his Beyblades.
Yes. So that's the whole point. So
Daddy,
that's
may I have the Beyblades Thunder Battle Dome?
that's the whole point of why Magnus did no wrong. Is because he did tons wrong, but he did it all for the right reason.
Okay.
So that answers
So it's
you that
actually
one.
kind of like Butters.
Yes. Yes, I suppose he is, if you
Like
want to
with
look
the tap dancing episode of South Park.
I'm going to assume yes. I've not seen it.
Oh, that's homework for you now.
Yeah,
'cause-
that's fine.
Yeah, okay, in my head now then Magnus is Butters.
Yeah, that's fine. So, next question on 40k.
What were those dudes that we found trapped in the Inquisition
Again,
game?
that's Heresy Period. That's Solar Auxilia.
I love how happy... That's Heresy Period!
Well, Heresy is history. That's the whole point. The Heresy Period is the history of the 41st millennium. So, Solar Auxilia. They are elite troops designed for void-based, so that's space-based warfare with armoured void suits, high-quality las technology, and in some respects they're the precursor to what would become, as I used to know them, stormtroopers, but are now known as Tempestus Scions under the new Games Workshop.
Because they have to rebrand everything so they
Can trademark it, so it's safe for them as a product.
I know these
yeah, that's fine. You know the day-to-day running of Games Workshop in terms of as a business.
I know what things make Kieran angry.
Yeah, well, it's fine. It's not the Astra Militarum, it's the goddamn Guard. It's always the Imperial Guard.
Goddamn guard.
Oh, that's why the memes of the classic movie characters all in line. So you know how we have the Düring painting?
Yes.
Where he's done in the military style uniform.
Yes.
You've got like Christopher Walken, Samuel L. Jackson, Clint Eastwood in the same style, but with like 40k quotes and other things to them.
I'm not on 40k shit posting.
I'll find you the Clint Eastwood one where it's like Astra Militara what? God damn, son, this is the fucking Imperial Guard. It's like, that's what it really is. This is what you get for playing the game for 24 years. So, Solar Auxilia. Elite specialist infantry. Slight step down from Space Marines.
Right.
Not all transhuman...
So they don't have like 7 lungs?
No. The Marines only have 3 lungs, dear.
7? What was
Not
I thinking?
7, that's... Are you Fabius Bile? Are you the Progenitor? Are you, in fact, mucking around with genetics again? Are you Fabius Bile, dear? 7 lungs? What madness is this? 3 lungs, 2 livers, 4 kidneys,
Okay.
poison glands in the mouth.
They bite people.
No, yeah, they can do as a last resort. By the time of 40k, half the added extras that Marines have in them have failed.
Right.
This is why people have got annoyed, but also are quite pleased with Primaris Marines in 40k, because it's taken Marines back to, as a miniature, to the scale they should have been all along.
Yeah.
And in the background, because Belisarius Cawl has been mucking about with the genetics properly, they're stable. They're not degraded. So they actually have all the working organs again. And he's added a few more to make them even better than normal Marines.
Right.
So Primaris Marines are really what Heresy period right back at the start were like. So what you see in 40k is a pale shadow of the original legions.
Right.
But that's distracted me from Solar Auxilia.
Yeah.
But Solar Auxilia, heavily armoured, space-based infantry of the Imperial Army.
Okay. But like normal people.
They're normal humans, but think of them as the elite. They're the best of the best.
Like SAS.
Yeah, but like on divisional scale.
Right.
So like 50,000 men rather than 6 blokes in a jeep, as the SAS tends to be, or 6 blokes out of a plane with a package or 2, which is good old SAS. So yeah, Solar Auxilia, very exciting to meet them in Connor's 40k roleplay game, because they haven't been around for a long time. They disappeared with the Way of the Heresy. Most of them, and the Solar Auxilia, literally solar meaning solar system, our solar system, and auxilia meaning as in auxilia, secondary troops.
Yeah.
They kind of stem from the large space-based civilization. So that's Jupiter, Saturn. Because Earth is kind of, it's weird. Because what you get is you get the different ages of mankind. So we're currently living in what is classed as this is M1 to M3.
Right.
Then you get M4 and 5.
Yeah.
And then M5 to M15 is the age of mankind.
Right.
Then M15 to M25 is the age of strife.
Which is when all the heresy... No.
The age of strife is when humanity, we've spread out through the whole universe.
Right.
Okay. And then we reach a pinnacle of technology that turns on us.
What, like robots?
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Is that where the Necrons?
No. Necrons are 60 million years old, dear. Necrons were alive when, like, the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth. Yeah. Necrotia stem from... Well, Necrotia are actually even older probably than 60 million years, because they stem from the time of the Old Ones and when the Eldar were first made.
Right.
And the Eldar served the Old Ones, who were basically the creators to some degree of all living life in the universe. Like, all living life generally comes from the Old Ones. And the Necrons were like a race that also existed at the same time as the Old Ones. So that's like going back 40k, 60 million plus years ago, and you had the War in Heaven, and that ended poorly for the Old Ones. They lost, and the Necrons won.
Right.
But the Necrons were tricked by a star-eating race, which is the Catan.
Okay.
Which...
invented the board game.
No, darling, wrong spelling. It's C''TAN.
Okay.
Not CATAN like the board game.
Making a joke.
Yeah, but it's not a funny joke. It's
Let
the
us
Catan.
know.
This is serious.
Let us know. Comment if you think that joke was funny.
No, it wasn't. It was awful. Mocking the Catan Star Gods with the board game. Well, that's because, dear, Games Workshop now, it's one of the things, it's institutionalised in Nottingham. And it's 50 years old, and the background's been around for years. And we always end up in this position where it's just like, you'll have to excuse the odd squeak, folks. The dog's decided to grab his goose and kill it.
He has things to say.
He has things to say on 40k, clearly, which is fine. But no, it's not that done. It's just, we spend our whole lives being bullied about having this as a hobby. No, and then to have a joke where people mock it like that, that's the problem of it. It's like you sit there and take the piss, and it's like we've had our whole hobby always taken the piss out of, because we're sat playing with toy soldiers, and we're not 50-year-old men sat in a shed away from the world. Like, we're not that...
You don't like football.
No, it's like no inclination to like sports. I'm quite happy painting miniatures and reading background fluff and like playing war games, and to the vast majority of the lads brigade, it's weird. And then it started to become mainstream, and people like Henry Cavill have now clearly dropped the nerd bomb big time, like Dinvies with
yeah.
D&D and Terry Crews and his cosplay and everything else. So of course suddenly it's like, oh, it's not because some hunky nerdy, like, not like, you know what I mean, some slab of muscle.
Yeah, Joe, what's his name?
Yeah, precisely. And the amount of women who are suddenly like,
I nearly pulled a face then.
yeah, the amount of women, for example, who are suddenly like, oh, nerds are cool. No, nerds who are built like a brick shithouse are cool to you. It's like...
In fairness...
There's no in fairness.
No,
We've spent years being subjugated to bullying and all sorts for liking 40k. And then Henry Cavill plods along doing all this, like, look at my chiseled jaw and manicured, like, masculinity. Oh, and I'm also a big old nerd. And every woman's falling over themselves to rip their knickers off. When was it when I was playing 40k as, like, whatever? No, it never fucking happened.
Because you hide your chiseled jaw under a beard.
Well,
maybe
that's
if you got
just...
yours out.
Yeah, but I'm also not 6 foot odd tall.
I don't need you to be.
Well, no, I know you don't, but you know what I mean. I'm not...
See, this is the thing. I have always liked nerdy guys.
Yeah, but you never went into a Games Workshop. You were too scared.
No, because it was just like a wall of blokes, and like
You should have been diving in head first. Then it's a wall of blokes.
No, I've discovered now at the age of nearly 34 that I had frigging crippling social anxiety that I just powered through and ignored and just thought I was a crap person.
No,
so apparently not. Apparently I had anxiety.
No, so yeah, but 40k Solar Auxiliary, we'll get back there eventually, folks. You'll have to forgive us. This is the whole point of being the Angry History Chef. This is with me getting angry at people.
I shouldn't be Spooky Goth Wife, I should be Waffle Wife.
The Waffle Wife? No, because you're not Amy Poehler in Parks and Rec. Where are your waffles and cream?
We are.
Well,
I'm Leslie and you're Ben.
Yes, we are.
/ Ron Swanson.
Yes.
I'm kind of like Leslie and April and you're Ben and Ron.
But yes, anyway, Solar Auxilia. Elite infantry that supported the Marines in the initial output of the Great Crusade.
Yeah.
To give them their 40k equivalent, it's the Tempestus Scions, really. It's Stormtrooper level.
Yeah.
So you've got Marines, you've got Tempestus Scions, then you've got the Astra Militarum in 40k. In the Heresy, you've got Space Marines, and above Space Marines are Custodes, of course, and Sisters of Silence. They're their own thing. But it's like you've got Custodes, you've got Marines, you've got the Solar Auxilia, then you've got the Imperial Army and Cults, as they're known, by the Big Red Books of Rules in the Heresy. And then that's about it. So, and then of course within that you've got the abhuman regiments like Squats, Ogrins, Beastmen.
Oh yes, so they go on about that in the kids' book. Because I've been listening to the 40k children's books because they're read by David Tennant and they were £3 on Audible in the sale. So I was like, what the hell? And I thought you might want the kids to listen to them.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, there's one where she's on some space station thing. And the Ganga kid is like super racist because his dad was.
It's 40k, dear.
Yeah,
it's all super racist and
well, I don't. Yeah, but Mary Sue Zelia Law is like, no, we must love everybody.
No, sod that. Burn the Xenos from the universe, except those that are prescribed by the Lex Imperialis and the Lex Pax to actually be legitimate.
Well, that's what the Inquisitor says that they meet because he's really annoyed that they're friends with the Jakari, like orangutan thing.
Yeah, but they're actually accepted by the vast majority of the Imperium, and they are normally servants to Inquisitors.
Yeah.
And Squats are fine. Now, Squats go right back to Rogue Trader, and it was basically Space Dwarves.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Oh.
Squats are just Space Dwarves, darling.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you want to call them, Games Workshop going, they
not
can't.
Very big. Not
Dwarves, darling. They're Space Dwarves.
I didn't mean that. I meant like I've not heard of them.
No,
so I'm guessing
you won't
they
have
don't...
heard of them because they killed them in 2nd edition when 3rd edition came out. So the game shifted from, so you have Rogue Trader, then you've got 2nd edition, which is when I started at the tail end of 2nd edition, and then in 97 2nd edition stopped and it changed to 3rd edition, which is what 40k ran from 3rd edition to 7th edition.
Right.
And then it went 8th edition, 9th edition. Well, basically, at the exchange of 2nd to 3rd, they wiped the Squats out.
What, like in-game?
Yes, as a background race, to some degree.
That's not very nice.
No, it's Games Workshop. This is the shift.
They're not making enough money.
No, this was the shift where you start seeing them becoming... We are now big enough, we need to look at it from a profitable business viewpoint.
It became
the Papa Smurf spamming brigade.
The Ultramarines.
Yeah. This is the whole point.
Look, I know things.
But,
I know some
but
things.
that stems more from like 4th edition onwards. Like 3rd edition and 4th edition, 40k to some degree. The box sets were Black Templars in 3rd edition versus Dark Eldar. And then it was, to some degree, like Crimson Fists, which is the successor chapter of the Imperial Fists, in 4th edition, done in the box game. But everything else, apart from that core thing, was them just spamming Popper Smurf and the Ultramarines, as it were. Good old robot girly man. Okay, he only came back in with 8th edition and the shift on the timeline. But this is the whole thing with 40k. It was quite happily didn't go past the end of M41999, which was the 13th Black Crusade.
Right.
And that way back in the mists of time, and I think it was 2005, and my wargaming buddies will have to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because it's been so long now after 24 years, but there was the 13th Black Crusade, and I think it was 2006 or 2005. It was around the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And that was whatever. Now this is when you used to get global campaigns run by Games Workshop over the summer holidays. So you had 6 weeks of global campaigning in store over the summer holidays.
I bet you used to like that.
Oh, I loved it. It's what my 6 weeks holidays were all for, was wargaming. Well, I always used to do the Warhammer ones. I was more of a Warhammer nerd than I was a 40k nerd.
So Warhammer's the
old
elves and dwarves.
It's the old fantasy world, which
then
they nuked and created the salt mine that is Age of Sigmar.
And then they've unnuked it.
No, they're looking to unnuke it, but they're making it into a specialist game, and they're going into the history. So what they'd got with like 40k with Warhammer, they got the Storm of Chaos campaign, and that was beautiful, and that was 2008. Yeah, I think I worked at Games Workshop at the time, so it was like 2008, 2009, 2010. Something daft like that. I was 13 years ago. What was 13 years ago?
You're asking the person with dyscalculia to do
so about
maths.
2007, 2008, yeah. So 2007, 2008 was the Storm of Chaos, where Chaos kind of won, and then they kind of didn't win. And this is the problem with the global campaigns. Anything set right at the end of the timeline or close to where the timeline was meant to be ending,
right?
They kept having to ignore, and the 13th Black Crusade was kind of right at the end,
right?
And it was like meh. And what happened is they nuked Warhammer, of course, from high orbit with a graphene rod. And destroyed the old world. No, they blew up they legitimately blew up the old world.
When we were listeting to the Brian Blessed thing,
which is awful.
Well, it's not awful. It's awful what's been done to it.
But so what
was
is you got a lot of reactions from older players who'd been playing this game for God knows how long. They'd got whole armies. And this is where the meme of the guy burning his army because his army was then gone. So the rules had been changed to AOS, and people are like, yeah, but you can still and it's not a rank and file game though. And that was from a business viewpoint to make it a more kid-friendlier game rather than big block rank and file. Because Warhammer Fantasy was a more difficult game to get into because you needed about 200, 300 models to play.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, but it was a big block rank and file. Think Napoleonic games when you see them, darling. Yeah. So that's the point. That's like Warhammer Fantasy was.
Because that's how they started out.
Yeah, because you needed rank and file units, and it's what we call a rank and flank game. So you have ranked units, and the objective really is to just get round and wipe your enemy off the table. 40k was always a bit easier for people to get into because it was a skirmish game. So what they've done is they didn't nuke 40k, which is what I think they had originally planned, but when they saw the backlash because of Age of Sigmar coming out and what they did to the old world, they realised they would have lost their whole company to some degree because 40k was the bigger game. It always has been. Because it needed less to get into. You only need like 2 squads of Marine and a character, and you had the start of a Marine force. And building a Marine army was like this weekend. I've just sat at Wheatley's when I was over there. They were playing 40k, and then we had board games. Me, Will, and Scott. And I could have quite happily walked into a Games Workshop, and I'd already worked out what I needed for a 1,000-point new Primaris 1,000-point Marine force. And it literally was about £100 I worked out with the box pricing, but that gave me a 1,000-point army to get going with.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's not actually.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, like if you're a kid, that's like a decent birthday present nowadays.
Well,
isn't
it is
it?
to some degree. But if you've got like, if you're like just working and it's your hobby, and you just want to do one box a month and you want to spend about 40 quid a month on wargaming and that's it, it's like, yeah, off you go, buy a box of Marines, add it to your Marine force. You can do it with most of the armies now. It's just about money balance, and this is why I do more historical. But back onto 40k, they nuked it, but they didn't nuke it the way they nuked Warhammer Fantasy. So
Right.
they brought back Robot Girly Man.
See, this is the problem. I forget his actual name because you only
Rabute
ever...
Gilliman.
I know, but you only ever call him Robot Girly Man, so that's all
Well,
I know.
I sometimes the other one is Rowboat Girl Man.
Robot Girl Man.
So no, but Rabute Guillemot,
Lionel. That's the
Lionel
one I
L.
know.
Johnson.
Yeah.
That's Primarch of the Dark Angels tier, who are clearly traitors. There's another meme that you don't know, but the fact that because during the heresy, the Dark Angels basically had a big old schism
Right.
and fought each other.
Yep.
And you have Luther.
They're like the vampire ones.
No,
aren't they?
that's Blood Angels,
Oh,
darling.
sorry.
That's your big.
sorry.
That's your big Lestats in space.
Stats in space.
So going. So let's just quickly run through the legions for people.
Oh.
You've got Dark Angels,
Yeah.
who originally
Yeah.
were meant to be Native Americans.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
not problematic at all.
Well, it wasn't to some degree because they were all meant to be based off cultures of different things.
Yeah, I get the principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the First Legion.
Yeah.
The Second Legion don't exist.
Right.
They do exist, but they don't. They were wiped out from Imperial history. No, there were 20 legions. The 2nd and the 11th were wiped out. No one knows why or how, and their Primarchs were expunged from history.
Oh, those are the missing ones.
Yes, that's the whole point.
Oh, see, I know about that. This is the thing, right, is that there's so much bloody information that it's gone in bits.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to...
So you've got like the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. So the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. The 11th is missing as well.
Yep.
Then you have the 12th, 13th, 14th. The 13th are the Ultramarines.
Okay, the ones that they always try and push.
But this is all because of the heresy. And when the Siege of Terror was over,
Yep.
Rabute Guillemot turns up and he literally goes, I've got 250,000 Marines behind me. Let's have a codex. And everyone else is going, we've just fought the Siege of fucking Terror, you arsehole. Fuck off. And people didn't want to break up their legions.
Right.
And he went, yeah, but if you don't, I will force you. And it's like, well, we'll fight you. It's like, okay, so let's have a second civil war just after we have the first civil war. Oh, wait, your legion that was 120,000 is now about 30,000 men. Oh, look, I've still got 250,000 troops, still pretty good. And he pretty much strong-armed everyone into accepting the codex.
So he's a dick.
Oh, yeah, he's the biggest dick in the world. I hate Robot Girly Man. My hatred of the Smurfs does not stem, and when I use the term Smurf, friends out there who don't do 40k, it is a reference to the Ultramarines because they're blue. They are all blue. And they have red helmets or white helmets if they're veterans, and so it's the white hat, blue body. Smurf.
See, you really need to not listen to those kids' books because whenever a
they
Space
just
Marine
bang on.
turns
But
up...
that's because in Games Workshop terms, they are the poster boys.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And this is the whole thing. But what's funny is Rabute Guillemot has been woken up in 8th edition, in terms of... They brought him back in 8th edition as a Primarch, because Belisarius Call and some Eldar blokes raised him out of the stasis field where he was on McCrag after he had his throat slit during at the end of the heresy.
How do you know all this?
And he basically came back, realised he made a massive foobar with the Codex Astartes. So when you look at Primaris Marines and the way their squads are organised, they're basically old school heresy troops.
Right.
So...
Which is bad.
No, it's great for me because I'm sat there going, I could get behind Primaris Marines because they organise like...
Which is the new thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're actually very close to how you run legitimate heresy armies. So the Intercessors, which are the Primaris Tactical Marine, so to speak, are just armed purely with bolters, which is basically old school heresy tactical Marines.
Yep.
Then you get the heavy weapon and specialist weapon squads, which is exactly like the heresy was, where you have Tactical Marine Special Support Squad and then heavy weapon squads and stuff, which is the old Legion ways. But going back to the Legion's organisations, everyone was different because of their actual, like...
Where they're from.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
the Space Wolves are
originally-
Space Vikings.
Well, yeah, they were space Vikings with a nod to lycanthropy.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
remember hearing
and
about
then,
that, and then they got rid of it.
No, they're still there, but what they've done is they've Wolfie McWolfie'd them, and they've ramped up the wolfen side of things to some degree, and they've covered them in enough wolf fur pelt that you should actually be, like, covered in paint by Peter, for Christ's sake.
The banana fur.
Oh no, that's the heresy sculpting issue. That's its own kettle of fish.
That's its own episode.
That's its own episode. Why the hell have you done that? Why are they wearing bananas as fur? What have you done? You shouldn't have got someone to sculpt that. That was awful. But yeah, no. So the 6th Legion, for example, which is my legion for the heresy, Space Wolves, I run them as actual Viking raiders in space. That's the whole point of Fenris. It's a big ice world that is based off Iceland, as in it's either freezing cold or red hot.
Yeah.
Because of the way the planet rotates. Also, 1 Fenrisian year is 4 Earth years.
Okay.
So
it's like Pirates of Penzance, so you've got a while till you get your birthday.
Oh yeah, because
Pirates of Penzance is born on a leap year.
Yes, he is there. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's me just forgetting my
Gilbert and
Sullivan there. Yeah, good lord.
You have to flog yourself.
I
later.
will. Yes, I will. So Fenrisian years are 1 Fenrisian year is actually about the equal of 4 Earth standards, as we call it. Dark Angels used to be based off of Native American, the first people, so to speak. Yeah. So when you look at the old assault cannons they had totemic with feathers on and stuff underneath.
Okay.
5th Legion, White Scars, were basically Mongolians in space.
Yeah.
Their whole planet is... because Jagati Khan, of course, is a parody of the great Tejumin, as in Genghis Khan. And they all rode motorbikes and hoverbikes rather than horses. And they have tulwars and all those beautiful oriental weapons from Mongolia and China. And they, rather than bows, of course, they use bolters. The 4th Legion is, if I'm remembering my Legion numbers correctly, the Iron Warriors. They're siege breakers. And the 7th Legion, which is the Imperial Fists, are siege defenders. But the Imperial Fists, dear, are basically Anglo-Saxons.
Oh.
Yeah, they're all about the shield wall. They're all about the shield wall and defensive works. And basically, if you think as Rogel Dawn as being a reincarnation of King Alfred. So what Rogel Dawn is, he moves into a system and then fortifies it. And creates a stable fortified structure that you can withdraw to so the enemy can't do a great deal.
I'm surprised you don't like him.
Oh, I love the Imperial Fists. If I could afford to actually have more than 1 legionary force, I would have had Imperial Fists. Because shield walls till the cows come home. Just like throw out the shield walls. So Rogel Dawn is basically a form of Alfredian style warfare.
Right.
In the 31st millennium even. 30k, not 40k. Then you've got the Night Haunter, which is Wheatley's Legion. That's the Night Lords. That's the Night Haunter, which is Conrad Kurz.
Yeah.
Who is basically Batman on coke. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's Batman on coke.
Batman
on coke.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman on coke. Batman on coke, dear. It's because my nose just blocked up there because of hay
So the
fever.
question is, would Conrad Kurz do what Batman would never do? Do you think?
Oh yeah, of course he would. But he'd do it because he'd be pulling the skin away from the body to wear as a hat. Because that's what they do. They're terror troops. So they will peel the faces off people a bit like
Pyramid Head.
No, they take the face and wear it on their own helmets as a terror tactic, while recording the screams of the people they're killing to echo back out while they attack
like the
target.
death whistle thing.
Yeah. So, but they record and then play it through vox amplifiers out their armor.
Basically, a big bunch of goths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're big old space goths that hide in They are a legion of Batmen on... So basically it's Batmen.
Oh, that band from Bloodstock, Ghost Bath.
Yes.
They would make good...
Yes, they'd make good night terror. Yeah. The Screaming Ghost Bath Brigade. So go back to First Legion properly. They're not Native American now. They became this weird, Templar, we have secrets...
That's a bit of a change.
Yeah, it was, but it's a sword with the wings, that's the whole point. So they could go from the Native American, so they weren't being,
really politically
incorrect
Yeah.
to they're Templars with a secret kind of thing.
Sitting on a secret.
Templars on a secret, yeah. But,
I don't know why I've just got this image
no,
of like...
but it's because Caliban was a chaos world that's possibly believed because of all the creatures on it. That's the whole point. And the Dark Angels have these little creatures that follow them around called Watchers.
Right.
And we don't know what a Watcher is, like what they are.
So how is that not heresy?
Well, this is the whole point of why
God.
Dark Angels are often seen, or are
Yeah.
often if you go on any of the forums and the Facebook,
Yeah.
and it's like, I see you collect a heresy army. It's like an army of heretics. What do you mean? You're a Dark Angels player. It's a running meme because Dark Angels. There's a theory that Luther, who revolted with half the Dark Angels, was actually on side of the Emperor, and Lionel Johnson had maybe gone traitor because he didn't want to do something. So the Dark Angels had their own civil war during the heresy,
Oh my God.
and they ripped their own planet apart. So now their home world, as it is, their fortress monastery, is a thing called the Rock, and it's the last large chunk where
Right.
their main fortress monastery
Oh,
was.
it's all that's left.
Yeah, and it's got
Oh.
and it's got engines built into it now, so it floats around in space.
Of course
So
it
they
does.
built it as a giant space station. So
course.
yeah, but the Imperial Fists don't have a homeworld, for example.
Oh.
No, their homeworld is technically Terra because they are the Praetorians of the Emperor,
Right.
and their actual homeworld or main thing is a thing called the Phalanx, which is a bit like a Blackstone fortress but smaller
Okay.
and less worrying. Because Blackstone fortresses are very worrying because no one knows where they come from. No one is really sure what they are. There are 13 of them and they are unimaginably powerful. And this is the whole point of the Crusades out of the Eye of Terror, by the way, was to capture Blackstone fortresses.
What? So the Space Marines were trying to capture the
No,
fortresses?
Chaos
Oh.
Marines are trying to capture Blackstone
Oh,
fortresses.
okay. So
because
they're
they
coming
have
out of the big portal.
Well, it's a rip in the world
Yeah.
into the Immaterium. It's the Eye of Terror.
Okay.
It's a big old clusterfuck in space.
I think that's the subtitle to 40k.
Okay, it's a big old clusterfuck up in space. But Cadia, which
Yeah.
we had the 13th
Yep.
Black Crusade.
I know about
Well,
that.
Cadia now falls, of course, so they can move the timeline on to bring in Primaris Marines and change the 40k history. So technically, it isn't Warhammer 40k anymore.
Yeah.
It's Warhammer 41k.
Yeah, but it's
Well,
like
42k.
It's like 20th Century Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, that's now like
Yeah.
20th Century Fox all the time. But that's the whole point. So it's still called Warhammer 40k, but technically they've gone past the end of the 41st millennium.
Well,
and we're now technically in the 42nd millennium, but it will always be Warhammer 40k.
Well, yeah, because it just sounds a bit dumb, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
41, it's just like, it's just round down.
Yeah,
you know?
well, it's 41k. No, it's 40k, and it's still, but it's now M42 rather than M41.
I mean, they've done quite well, given, I suppose, if you think about stuff like DC, where they constantly just nuke universes and rewrite them.
well,
like
they
52 and
they
everything,
have to
but-
some degree done that, but they do it in a much more subtle and insidious way that you actually start
They
questioning.
change stuff in the books. And
Yeah,
it's just
and
like,
and it's like I was reading something. I'm trying to remember what it was now, and I was like, "Wait, what? When did that happen?" And it's like, "Oh no, they changed it, Kieran, in such and such a like," and it's been really insidiously like taken out or added in.
It's like it's always been this
Yeah,
way.
and I'm just like, no, I have an in-depth knowledge going back 24 years on this hobby, and I'm like,
Yeah.
when the fuck did you change this, you assholes?
Stop changing my history.
Yeah, stop changing my 40k history.
I guess it's like constantly getting a fascist dictatorship rewriting history every couple of years when they decide they don't
Games
like
Workshop, kind of, it's a parody of its own 41st millennium.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird parody. Although it is actually a really good company to work for, and I did for 2 years as a chef.
There is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Oh no, war is eternal. You'll never get away from war. Anything else you want to ask me about? Given I've rambled about 40k for a bit now, and I've kind of given information and stuff. So
I'm trying to think how much more my brain can handle. Does it have to still be about 40k?
to some degree,
we are on a
it
theme,
is a
aren't we?
40k theme, darling. But it's like,
So what happened to the Emperor's back?
oh, it got broken by Horus.
Like Bane?
Yeah.
That kind of...
Yeah. He
Yeah.
broke his back. But as he broke his back, the Emperor basically formed using psychic powers a sun inside Horus's armour.
Ouch.
Yeah. Self-contained as sun with psychic powers inside Horus's armour.
And were
Now,
they
whether
like...
that's been retconned again, I don't know. But when I first started, that was how it was always told. In the moment that Horus broke the Emperor's back in their fight on the battle barge, well, on the Gloriana-class battleship now, which is the world killer of Horus, Sanguinius fought Horus first. Spoilers, although it's not spoilers, because if you've come to a 40k podcast and you don't know this by now, where have you been? But basically, Sanguinius, aka Master of the Ninth Legion, the Blood Angels... Space vampires, dear, as you know them, yes. He fights Horus first.
Right.
And dies.
Right.
He's already seen this because he has precognitive abilities.
There's a lot of people with psychic powers for a thing where you're not supposed to have psychic powers.
Right, ignore the Council of Nicaea in terms of psychicness. It's one of those things where it happened, but it's like people kind of... Certain legions obeyed it, like the Imperial Fist, because Rogel Dawn very much was like... and... He didn't like to break the rules. Rogel Dawn did everything by the rules.
Lawful good.
He's lawful good.
Yeah.
Rabute Gilman obeyed initially, and then when the Warp Storms kicked off in the 500 Worlds during the Heresy, he went, actually, we could have librarians, it'll be useful. So he then ignored it. Russ just ignored it in general by claiming that Space Wolf Psychers aren't Psychers. So the Emperor, being a Psyker, kept his Psychers, and Jagati Khan kept his Psychers, and a lot of other legions didn't have Psychers anyway and banished them and did whatever else. But Jagati Khan had his Stormseers. He claimed they were shaman of his world.
So everybody was just trying to get out of there.
Most of the loyalist legions, and actually a lot of the legions that would go to the dark side, so to speak, and become heretical, did follow the rules of the council.
Yeah.
But there are certain legions, like the 6th. The 6th Legion, for example, was the Emperor's executioners. That was their unseen job. The 6th Legion was sent in. The Space Wolves were always sent in to put down something that required absolute extermination. So things like the World Eaters, aka Angrons, which is the 12th, if I remember correctly, they never really had Psychers to start with.
Right.
Certain legions, Psychers existed throughout the whole thing, but a lot of the time the legions it was one of those things. By the time the heresy is really kicked off, everyone's kind of gone, yeah, not to be rude, but you're going to ignore that.
Yeah, because this is the thing, you got me to read Eisenhorn and all that.
Yeah, no,
and he's a great big psycho.
Yes, he is, because basically that law, that thing, was mostly meant for the legions, but it also was basically, by the time the heresy, they realised they needed librarians and psychers in the legions to deal with demons and the warp, because shockingly enough, warps. That's what we need. So the Emperor being a big old psyker himself.
Yeah.
He basically, what happened is Sanguinius fought Horus. Sanguinius wasn't a psyker, but he had big angel wings. He was known as the Angel.
Yeah.
He grew up on a planet called Baal, which was like a twinned starred thing. It's an awful rad planet, like irradiated to hell, and he got wings, and of course mutation was quite common and everything else. But he had the ability to see the future.
Right.
So all the different Primarchs had their own abilities to do certain things, in some respects.
But there's 2 out there that could...
The 2 are dead. No, we know they're dead.
Oh, okay.
We know they do not exist.
It's not like the random wizards out Lord of the Rings.
No. We know that the 2nd and the 11th are gone because we believe one died during the Rangon Xenos Wars, who are a thing in the northeast of the map of the 40k universe. That happened, and we believe the 11th Legion and the Primarch there died in that, and the 2nd was probably executed and his whole legion put down to some degree by the 6th Legion of Lehman Russ.
Okay.
Because that's what... In effect, the 6th Legion were designed to be legion killers. They were the last resort of the Emperor to put down rogue legions. Right. The problem is that they are their own thing, the 6th Legion, and you kind of just go, oh, the Space Vikings with the werewolf. It's like, they are, but they're also something entirely different. And it's like, it's one of their backgrounds that people don't realise. It's like, big old scary executioners. Oh, the 6th Legion. Oh, we've really broken the rules, haven't we? Yes, you have. But yeah, so what happened is Sanguinius fought Horus and made a chink in his psychically. So Horus's armor was all demon infused and protective and blah blah blah, and Sanguinius managed to put a chink in that armor, enough of a hole that there was a breach in the psychic warding from the gods of chaos, that the Emperor projected a sun straight into the armor, as Horus broke the Emperor's back, because it's the only way the Emperor could get close enough to get the chink was in effect to sacrifice himself as well to destroy Horus. Now, that all happens, and then Rogel Dawn finally turns up. No, he was dealing with the Siege of Terror at the same time, and this is all happening. This happens at the end of the Siege of Terror to some degree. And Rogel Dawn turns up, and there used to be a running joke that he bench pressed the Emperor before he put him in the Golden Throne to prove a point. It's a running old school joke with certain people in Nottingham, because we all know Nottingham is the lead belt and it's the home of wargaming. So it's like, so the Emperor got bench pressed by Rogel Dawn, then Rogel Dawn threw him in the chair, which keeps him in place and alive. And what happens is the Emperor basically went, I will now be the beacon, which is the astronomicon? No.
Oh, the thing that they used to get ships.
Through the...
Yeah. See?
So, yeah, and you have to feed, like, psychers into it to keep the Emperor as powers. But with 8th edition, the Emperor finally decided to die, apparently.
Oh.
Well, he was a corpse god, as they call it. The Chaos Marines always mock him as this corpse god that everyone worships.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember that the Lex Imperialis, which is the religious cult of 40k, was actually created by the traitors.
Oh.
It stems from the word bearers, the Lex Imperialis, worshipping the Emperor as a god originally. What were you on about on last Friday? Me, Connor, and we was like, the Lex Imperialis, and then chuckled among ourselves.
Yes.
Because, Erebus and Lorgar invented that. Lorgar is the word bearer's Primarch, and Erebus was his head chaplain.
Okay.
So that's what it is. So it's one of those things of they went, we've created a cult and a religion, and the Emperor was like, I'm all for secularism and science, bitch. Stop it.
He was like Richard Dawkins, and then they were like, actually, we think you'd be really cool
as a god, and he was like, no, there are no gods. Because he also knew that if he could banish religion and suppress it, the Chaos Gods would become weaker and eventually,
like Stalin.
Eventually disappear.
So he was a big communist, kind of like a.
Well, I won't say communist, but he's a big old dictator.
Yeah.
People used to refer to him. People outside of the Imperium and other things refer to him, and people he's conquered. He's often referred to as the Tyrant.
Oh, okay.
The Emperor is often known as the Tyrant by like the gene crafters of the moon of Luna. As it is, the gene crafters of Luna are actually the people that made Space Marines possible on the Legion. Like, so the Emperor could kind of do it on Earth and was generating maybe about 1,000 Marines, and like was able to stabilize it and create the legions roughly to conquer a post Unification Wars of Terror. So the first few legionary troops, which is the Dark Angels, which is the first legion, they are all about doing the secret dirty work of destroying whole planets and stuff. So like the first are the ones you send in to expunge. They will use all the dirty weapons like bio bombs, biochemical weaponry, phosphorus, which is your big like just burn it and it keeps burning it. So a weapon called Phosphex burns with a green fire and it burns through everything. So it's basically like an upgun version of the modern like phosphorus rounds and grenades, which will just light. And even trying to get it underwater and cutting it off the flat, it'll keep burning, and that's Phosphex. Really nasty shit. But that was the first Legion's specialisation to some degree in the heresy. They were like civilization killers. The 6th Legion were Legion killers. They weren't there to wipe out civilization. They were there to deal with legions that went rogue.
Yep.
And as I said, the 7th Legion, the Imperial Fists, they were fortress builders. So you'd send in the 1st, follow them with the 7th, and like the 6th were normally just left to their own devices. The 5th, which is the White Scars, they go bimbling off through space, being wanderers, like all true Tibet, like the horse-stepped. I say they're Mongolian, they're not. they're more based off just the Eastern Steppe tribes,
Yeah.
Mongolia, that region. That is the 5th Legion. That is the White Scars. They're very much influenced though by Oriental culture, designs, patterns and armour and everything else.
Yeah.
3rd Legion, that's the pretty boys of the legions. That is Fulgrim and the Phoenix himself, the Phoenician. The 3rd Legion is the Emperor's Children, darling.
Oh, okay.
They were the
I've
only
heard about
ones
that.
originally who were allowed the Imperial Eagle on their breastplates because they were the Emperor's children.
Right.
And they were always searching for perfection. Unfortunately, that meant they fell quite easily because they were always looking for perfection. And that perfection becomes hedonism. So then they become like hedonistic, and that's how they fell. Which is why the god they ended up worshipping or working for, worshipping, is Slanesh.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was about to say that.
So they fall for the god of hedonism.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is what it is.
I'm going to have to sound the air horn.
Yeah, because you've done now. You've done.
Been talking for about an hour, and my head is just like...
Well, okay, the wife is sounding the 40k air horn on me, and that's fine. And it is time almost for my Thursday night, the last of my Caradine Cockney sing-alongs that I like to enjoy, that have kept me going over the lockdown. But I hope you all enjoyed it. There will be another one of these Sunday things, maybe not this month, probably next month.
Oh, we'll see.
But we'll see, because if the wife decides, let's hammer at 40k knowledge again and keep going, I'll churn out another one and keep going with it. I hope you all enjoyed it, and good night.
And like and subscribe and follow.
And please share.
We have a Twitter. I set up your Twitter today.
I have a Twitter now,
it's called
apparently.
@AngryHistChef, because it was too long if I put history in.
Oh, that's
so
annoying.
you're
Twitter.
a hist chef.
A hist chef.
Hist. Hotel India Sierra Tango.
Lovely.
Chef.
So that's fine. So yes, like and subscribe.
And tell us if you would like more 40k or less 40k. I know Charlotte was quite excited about the idea of Lord of the Rings. So...
I will get round to Loiter. That's not a problem. Lord of the Rings is fine. That needs to be less of a ramble to some degree, and more I need to make sure I've got all my reference points, because my Lord of the Rings knowledge is a bit slipshod at the moment. I need to reread things and double check things.
Well, there you go. You can swat up.
Yeah,
especially.
there's a bit of swatting up to do, but not a massive amount. But yes, thank you, folks, and good night.